Hello and welcome to the Ad Project podcast. As always, I am your host, Joe Schellerud. No, just kidding. I've always wanted to say that though. I'm Tony Miller. I am the Director of Programmatic Strategy here at Ad Advance. Today I am joined by one of our senior account managers, Isaac Shelton.
Great to be here.
Awesome to have you here. A couple weeks ago, actually, Isaac and I had the opportunity, along with a couple other coworkers, to go out to one of the Amazon offices and talk a little bit about Prime Day, and more specifically, how you can utilize AMC, Amazon Marketing Cloud, to really help drive good performance and get the most out of your event days, such as Prime Day that we've got coming up here. So today we are going to dive into a little bit about AMC, how you can utilize that for Prime Day, really try to make the most out of this multi-tiered event that we've got coming up here. Coming into this, it's going to be a little bit different than what we've experienced in past years. We've got a 4-day event coming up here, which is new, unique. You know, Prime Day used to be a 1-day event. Then it was a 2-day event for the last couple of years. Now we're jumping up to 4. So that should be definitely interesting. But I mean, from a high level, we're going to take this as we take any other deal events, you know, whether it's Prime Day, big deal days, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, Turkey 5, Turkey 12, however many turkeys there's going to be this year. But yeah, if you're just running a one-off deal, say you've got like a back to school sale or something coming up, everything that we talk about today is going to be able to be utilized for any big deal event for your brand. Thinking about these deal periods, you know, we've got kind of a tent pole event that we are going to be talking about, where you've got a lead in, a lead out, and then in between those two, the deal period itself, the event day. But before we dive into that, let's talk a little bit about what we know about Prime Day, what we historically can expect to see based on our own data.
Yeah, let's take a look back at Prime Day 2024. Looking back at our data, we saw almost a 3 times increase in impressions and a 2.5 times increase in sales versus the July daily averages. Brands running deals saw even higher lifts, 3 times higher sales lift versus 48% lift for brands not running deals. Looking at layering in DSP, brands using both sponsored and DSP strategies saw a 2.6% increase in purchase rates, a 3.5 times sales lift, and a 2.7x ROAS improvement.
Wow. I mean, that couple key takeaways for me, that really highlights the importance of, you know, leaning into a full funnel strategy as we get into deal events like this. You know, not just utilizing sponsored ads to drive performance and success, but also layering in DSP to have an even better lift, you know, with those conversion rates and ROAS improvements that you just mentioned. And I think something that we recap every single year after Prime Day, but goes without saying, you know, brands that host a deal during big event days like Prime Day, you usually see a larger increase in sales lift on those deal days.
For sure.
Cool. I guess thinking about, you know, AMC's been the talk of the town for the last, you know, year and a half, 2 years here. Any event that we go to, you know, everybody wants to know about it. How can I utilize this? How can my brand lean into AMC to really help drive better performance for us? Really just thinking about some of the cool things that this can unlock are even reconsidering different metrics that you take to determine what success looks like for your brand. You know, so we're still seeing brands that think about, hey, what is cost per click? What is conversion rate? What does my ROAS or ACoS look like? Really, those folks can be missing the full picture, the bigger picture, the full story for their brand. What else can AMC help us consider?
Yeah, I think AMC unlocks a lot of things that a lot of brands may not have historically looked at. Some of the key items that are all outlined, key capabilities, I guess, are building custom audiences. So we can build audiences around people who have made it to your PDP, cart abandoners, new to brand buyers, and repeat purchasers. Another thing that we can do is we can build lookalike audiences. So this will help us better target people at the top of the funnel, We can all think about those high volume keywords that maybe we've kind of strayed away from due to ACOS or inefficiency, broad keywords that a lot of the shoppers are looking for, but we don't know if they're looking for our product or our competitor's product. It may be separated by price point or key features, and we can use these lookalike audiences to boost our bids and say, hey, we're willing to bid more aggressively if this shopper looks just like the people who I know purchase my product and love my brand. Going a step further, we can look at purchase timelines. So this can help us inform us on when we should start this lead-in strategy. After I serve that first impression to a new to brand shopper, does it take them 15 days to convert? Does it take them 30? Does it take them 40?
Right.
This can really help us dial in when we should start those lead-in efforts.
Yeah. Totally.
Finally, I think we can just get smarter with our bids overall. Just like with those lookalike audiences, same with any of the other audiences I mentioned, the add to cart or detail page viewers, we can boost our bids on those higher intent shoppers, lower our bids on the lower intent, and hopefully see some efficiency gains from doing so.
Yeah, definitely. I think a couple key pieces that AMC also helps bring to the table, especially for consumable products, stuff with repeat purchasability, understanding, what does it cost me to get a new to brand shopper in the door? But then also comparing that to, okay, we've got a new to brand shopper. What kind of lifetime value are they going to bring to my brand over their lifetime of purchasing from me? That can better help inform your targeting, what you deem as acceptable in terms of performance, rather than the traditional, hey, what's ACOS, what's ROAS look like on a sponsored ad campaign?
And just on that first purchase.
Yeah, exactly. Just that first purchase, knowing full well that over time, they're going to bring more to the table for my brand. They're going to come back and make repeat purchases over time, improving their lifetime value for the brand. I would say, it sounds to me like this is really just less guesswork, more precision, more accuracy with your ad dollars as we get into these high intent purchase times where, it's not just your brand going after these shoppers. Everybody's going to come to the table with a cool playbook unique to their brand. So really help us, not just strategically think and get better targeted here, but better help align our efforts on the sponsored ad side and DSP. The numbers you talked about earlier, again, they highlight the performance of utilizing multiple ad types to get in front of shoppers.
Absolutely. Should we dive into kind of what this looks like?
Let's talk about the
three
tempo.
stages.
You bet.
So diving into stage one or phase one, the lead in up to the event. Our goal during that lead in is really just to generate and build demand and brand visibility, as well as increase that pool of shoppers that we can retarget during the deal event. On the sponsored side, this looks like implementing ranking campaigns, key category targets, the targets that we know everybody's browsing around, searching for on Amazon as they're kind of making those lists and waiting to see if there's going to be a deal on those products during the event.
Right.
We want to be showing up there. We want to capture their attention, get them to our detail pages, allowing us to retarget them during the event with those AMC audiences and sponsored display retargeting tactics.
Totally. Yeah. We got to let the people know about your brand, about your product. You got to build some awareness and try to get some engagement there as well. The lead-in phase, you think about it, you're trying to generate your own demand here. You're putting in the hard work for that deal day. Utilizing AMC to target the right audience, I guess. Even thinking about the sponsored side, you mentioned, getting in front of the right audience there. We can utilize AMC to help do that. You think about like the watch category, for example, there's $20 watches, there's $200 watches. Those shoppers are inputting some of the same search terms to find either of those products. AMC can really help say, let's analyze what my past purchasers look like, create lookalike audiences. Now we can layer that over to our sponsored ad campaigns, allowing us to, comfortably bid on those high intent, high relevant, but also highly competitive keywords.
Absolutely. And I think too, during that lead in, like we're going to see a drop in conversion rate, right? Typically we see shoppers clicking around,
Great point.
Not necessarily making that purchase. So I'd definitely make sure that you're kind of aware of that during the lead up.
Mm-hmm.
We don't back away from our strategies. We trust the strategies that we put in place. We're really looking at impressions and clicks, and we're trying to generate that awareness. It's not necessarily a ACOS focus during that lead in, due to the fact that we're going to see conversion rate drop.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even thinking about DSP, Amazon's demand side platform, we're trying to do the same thing. You know, on the sponsored side, you're going to be bidding on, yeah, you know, your high intent category keywords. With display ads, we're really trying to get in front of the right people. Not when they're only on Amazon, but also off the platform as well. Start, you know, planting those seeds, getting ideas into people's head. We can do some really cool, powerful things on the DSP side of things when it comes to audience layering. So something that we do at Ad Advance is anytime we've got a new brand, we're going to build an audience of everybody who's purchased from that brand over the last year. We are then going to be able to analyze and look at Amazon's overlap reports. So Amazon will actually kick out a list of audiences that your shoppers also fall into. And that can be really, really cool for knowing where to put our budget. You know, you think of like in the electronics category, it's absolutely massive. There's tens of millions of people in that. You know, certainly you don't have budget to sustain and say, hey, I'm selling a camera, for example, and I want to get in front of people that are in market for electronics. We don't have the budget to do that, you know? So with DSP, we can take these overlap reports, layer these audiences and stack them together, really have like a Venn diagram effect that outputs the smaller percentage of the overlapping audiences. And that's who our target audience is. So we're using DSP to get in front of those shoppers, build some interest, generate our own demand, like we're saying here. But beyond that, you know, we don't have to just utilize Amazon's audiences and Amazon's data. It's very valuable. Don't get me wrong there, but you can also lean into your own data. You know, so you've got a strong D2C presence or a really healthy email list, for example. You can hash all of that data, anonymize it, get it into Amazon, and build some lookalike audiences off of that as well. You know, these are your purchasers. This is their purchase data. Let's utilize that to make smart, informed decisions to get in front of the right people as we're leading into an important event like Prime Day. You know, you mentioned lead-in timelines. So AMC allows us to generate, you know, hey, here's the average amount of time that somebody takes to make a new to brand purchase after they've been first exposed to one of our ads. You know, Amazon's typically recommending at least 2 to 4 weeks of a lead-in timeline. We're almost getting there right now, thinking about it. But AMC can really help unlock what that timeline looks like. Say you're selling a more expensive premium product, it might take longer than a month to get in front of a new to brand shopper, educate them about your product, about your brand before they actually make a purchase. So leaning into AMC and those purchase timelines can really help inform what your lead-in period looks like, how long of a period, you know, you need to sustain to help drive your message home for that deal day.
Yeah, and I think that's super important, not only just for the lead in and identifying when should we implement and start these strategies, but also for setting realistic expectations on how long we need to run these strategies to actually see those results. Those people that we may be getting in front of, you know, on day one, they may take 40 days to convert. And that's a long time. We may get at times cold feet and want to pull away from these strategies, but I think that identifying our purchase timeline really sets the expectations and allows us to understand how long we need to leave these strategies in place.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you mentioned earlier, conversion rate's going to drop before a big event like this. That's something that we experience year after year. It's, you know, it's going to happen, but don't get cold feet. Trust the process, trust the data. You know, we're making informed decisions here to, you know, make the most out of this deal period.
For sure. Well, I think that's a good spot to move on to the event day or phase 2.
You bet.
Goal during phase 2, so 4-day event, kind of all of those deal days. Now we're trying to maximize conversions. We're trying to get all of those shoppers who showed interest in our products, in our category, to a conversion on the deal days. Another thing that we're trying to do, we invested upfront on those key category targets. We're hoping that shoppers noticed our brand and are now going to come key in branded searches on the deal event.
Hopefully, yep.
That'd be awesome, right? when they key those in, we definitely don't want to give those away to competitors. So we want to amplify or increase our brand defense efforts during the deal event. And then finally, retargeting those high intent shoppers, whether that's through the AMC audiences, boosting bids for cart abandoners, or people who have made it to our detail page, or using sponsored display views retargeting on that deal event. Another thing that we want to do during that deal days is increase our top of search placement modifiers for our key highly valuable category targets. Maybe it's not the top search volume targets that are going to eat up a ton of our budget, but it's key category targets that we know we historically convert really well on and drive a lot of purchases for us.
Yeah, I think, something you mentioned, adjusting top of search placement modifiers. We've also talked about boosting bids on the sponsored side. Probably an important thing to note that if you're doing both of those things, that's really going to amplify your bid. So just be mindful of something like that. So we're not escalating bids to be, hundreds of times larger than what you might anticipate. So
Definitely,
perhaps just
great point.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, from the DSP side of things, you mentioned even sponsored display retargeting. Amazon's DSP, not for everybody. There's a time and a place for all things in life. DSP is one of those things. If you're not leaned into DSP, I definitely suggest exploring that, seeing what's possible there. But sponsored display has some awesome capabilities similar to DSP. Not quite as many knobs and levers to adjust and pull on there, but a good alternative if DSP is not in your arsenal. But from a DSP side, though, we have put in the hard work. We've layered audiences on the sponsored side to allow us to continue being aggressive with those very highly relevant, highly competitive category terms. But we've also, used overlapping audiences and combining those audiences to get in front of a ton of new to brand shoppers. Now let's do the work of, we've generated that awareness and engagement. Let's make it pay off for us on these deal days, right? So we're leaning heavily into retargeting. People that have made it to our detail pages, our storefront, our competitors' detail pages, perhaps they've added to cart previously. We're really just trying to get back in front of those shoppers, drive them to our detail page to make that purchase on the deal day. I would even say, something else that we want to make sure that we are doing is really using AMC to capitalize on the DSP side of things, the upfront lead-in effort that we've done, where something really cool is using AMC. Now we can say, hey, let's build an audience of everybody that's been exposed to our upper funnel lead-in campaigns from the DSP side. We can layer that over top of category terms. So like we said, awesome if they come to Amazon, input a branded search. That's not always going to happen. Let's be reasonable.
Right.
But now you can layer those people that have been exposed to our brand over top your highly relevant category terms, saying, hey, somebody goes in, they put in more of a generic search term. We know that they've been exposed to our brand, to our product previously, thus the comfortability in boosting our bids.
Yeah, and I think another thing that frequently comes up is kind of what are we doing during the deal event,
right?
As far as managing the account.
Yep.
And I think it's important to not look at deal day performance. Oftentimes, there's a ton of volume on Amazon.
Right.
The data lags. We don't know exactly what is true and what's not quite trued up yet. And I just want to call out, like, we're putting in a lot of work during that lead in to put our strategies in place, build the data. And that's what we're using during the deal event is we're more so focused on budgets. We want to keep campaigns that have historically performed well, that we know are top performers in budget during the deal event, if possible. But more so looking at budget and keeping campaigns running rather than looking at an ACOS or ROAS day of.
Definitely a tough thing to do. Been through a few Prime days myself. It always comes up, hey, what's performance look like day of? Super hard to say. Like you mentioned, the data is going to be, a little bit laggy. But, again, coming back to, hey, let's trust the process here. We've put in this work. We've set ourselves up for success. We're monitoring budgets, making sure that we're staying competitive and, watching our own lawn here with those branded keywords and whatnot. So, yeah, good solid points there. Well, cool. we've done the hard work, the lead in. We put a plan in place. We've executed on that plan the day of. We drove some awesome success on Prime Day, the deal periods. What's next?
Yeah, next is that lead out. So we've got shoppers during the lead in. We've generated that awareness, like you said. During the event, we're hoping to drive those conversions. That being said, there's a lot of shoppers on Amazon. Just the overall boost in traffic on Amazon alone.
Right.
I know myself, I'm going to be clicking around. There's a few items that I have on my list that I want to deal on. There's other items that are going to catch my eye, and I'm going to click around and I'm going to look in different categories at different products I may not purchase. So we have a big pool of shoppers that are new to category that have clicked around, showed interest in our products, but maybe not bought. So during that lead out, we really want to re-engage with those shoppers, knowing that they have interest in the category, they have interest in our products, but haven't yet made a purchase. Another thing that we can do is all of those new to brand shoppers that we have in the door, maybe we can retarget and get in front of with an upsell or some of our other products.
Yeah, I mean, even considering Amazon Marketing Cloud for the lead out, people think, hey, deal period's over, pack it up, let's move on to the next thing. How do we maximize, back to school savings or something like that? But, there's a lot of valuable data coming out of that Prime Day, not just on the data side, but I guess even on thinking about the audiences. So, you mentioned impressions, traffic coming to the platform during those deal periods. What did we say earlier? Almost 3 times the amount of impressions coming on Prime Day last year than what we saw other days in July.
Yeah.
That's a massive amount of people, and not everybody's making a purchase. That's something to keep in mind here. We've got a massive pool of people now that have filled our retargeting buckets. So let's lean heavily into those retargeting strategies as we're exiting those deal days. There's still a ton of new to brand, new to category traffic that is yet to convert. We've seen some brands in the past hosting, say, like a lead out deal as well, for several days after Prime Day as well. It may not be the same kind of savings that you saw the days prior, but we still see good success, I would say, from a retargeting standpoint with DSP anyways, to make it worthwhile to say, hey, there's a pile of people still out there. They considered you. They considered your competitors. Let's capitalize on those people. Let's get them to convert. But I think something that's really cool now, again, back to the consumables, the repeat purchase products, Amazon Marketing Cloud can help tell us now what is the average amount of time between repeat purchases. So the deal or the Prime Day is over, the event's over, but now the real work begins. So cross-promoting, cross-selling into other products in your catalog that might be complementary to somebody's initial purchase on Prime Day, but also considering AMC again, lifetime value. It's telling us that, hey, these people are going to come back. They're going to make 2, 3, 4, 5 purchases over the next 12 months. Let's make sure they stay in brand and don't jump to another competitor next month. Say you've got a 30-day supply of supplements. Okay, great. Mid-July, they made their purchase. Let's check out Amazon Marketing Cloud. What is our average repeat purchase timeline looking like? Okay, great. Now we're just informed of when we should start our repurchase efforts, ensuring that, hey, we set up our goals and our targets based on Amazon Marketing Cloud, what the data is telling us, new to brand cost per acquisition versus lifetime value. Let's make sure we get that lifetime value piece, get back in front of those people, expose them to our brand, get them to make repeat purchases over time. More audiences that we can even consider for other deal periods. Hey, let's build audiences using AMC of big deal day purchasers. I know I'm hosting a back to school sale in another month or 2. We've got big deal days likely coming up again in October. Let's utilize some of this data. What did we see from Prime Day to help inform our decisions moving forward?
That's a great point.
Well, the deal's over. The Prime Day lead in has happened. The event itself has happened. The lead out, we are out of it. Now what?
As far as looking at like key differences of the 4-day Prime Day versus regular Prime Day, I think there's a couple key things that I want to call out. I think overall budget's going to be important. Oftentimes we're talking about budgets around events. Should I load that up on the first day, the fourth day, the second day, the third day? I think overall it's new to all of us. We don't know exactly, what traffic's going to look like, but I would anticipate that there's a lift in traffic over your typical days throughout the whole event. So I would make sure or try to prioritize adding budget over your typical days. Maybe that's
Totally.
if you've seen in previous deal events, turkey 5, 12, however many turkeys, like you said,
A whole load of them.
maybe early days where you had a ton of traffic, later days, maybe it's that mid-event. Overall, I'd use that data, but I would make sure that we're ramping up budgets so that we're capable or able to capture that traffic.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we've mentioned a couple of times, we got a 4-day event ahead of us. What does that look like? We've got people asking us what this looks like, what to anticipate, what to expect. It's new to all of us. Like you said, we went from a 1-day up to a 2-day, now up to a 4-day. But we've seen similar things with the turkeys. It was a Black Friday through Cyber Monday into Turkey 5 into Turkey 12. What does your data look like during that period last year? Did you see more traffic coming in on those earlier days, the latter days? Did you have a deal hosted throughout the entire event? What can you gain from your past deal timelines? I mean, even thinking back to like last Prime Day. Last Prime Day was a 2-day event, as we've become accustomed to. Did you see more traffic, more sales, more impressions on that first day compared to the second day, or vice versa? It's probably unique to every brand. It's important to, get in there, analyze your past data to try to set yourself up for the best success that's possible with a new event period like we're experiencing. Well, cool. I mean, just thinking, we got a lot going on here. We're hosting a tentpole event. We're leaning into not just sponsored ads. We're leaning into DSP as well. Amazon Marketing Cloud gives us some cool data to help, tell us that when you're leaned into multiple ad types like that, you're likely going to see higher conversion events, higher conversion rate, better overall performance likely. So I think that's, one of the cool things that Amazon Marketing Cloud can help inform us of as we get into these cool deal periods. Better control over where our budgets are going, especially on the sponsored side, where you're able to layer over these lookalike audiences to your category terms. Not everybody's going to click on your $200 product when they search for watch for men. They might be looking for the $20 alternative. Now we've got more confidence to go after those very competitive, high intent category keywords with AMC. I mean, this is going to be a cool one to sit back and analyze post event too. We've never had audience layering for sponsored ads from AMC before. This is going to be a first go round here. So I'm really curious to see how this all plays out. But yeah, a plethora of information that we can dive into, from reporting to audience creation, to really help try to make the most out of this event.
Yeah, absolutely. I think overall, if you're not using AMC during Prime Day, you're just leaving a lot of valuable performance on the table.
Yeah, totally. Well, cool. Yeah, I think that's about that. If you're curious to learn a little bit more about Amazon Marketing Cloud, AMC, or any of the cool topics that Isaac and I have talked about today, definitely reach out, get in touch. But I would say that that pretty much covers it. That's going to wrap up another awesome, exciting Amazon podcast, brought to you by the Ad Project at Ad Advance. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, share, all of those cool things that Joe always tells you to do. I hope I've done my best in sitting in for him. It's been an absolute honor. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you all next time.